Don't you love him? You can play them all day long when you're in your room. But when you get in a band situation, you can't always play like that. Nonetheless, we're going to learn some fills that hopefully you're going to be able to play in a group situation. And then eventually take some of these fill ideas and work them out in a solo context, sort of like what I was just doing here. One of the first things I want to talk about is to do a really common fill using a roll. And that roll is a 6-stroke roll. Here's how the 6-stroke roll goes. Now, I demonstrate all of these rudiments and fills and ideas and such in my DVD and book, Hands, Grooves, and Fills, which you can get on this website, don't forget. And also, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start to apply these fills, and we're going to start to orchestrate them. So the 6-stroke roll is really the most common fill that you can use. And it was used in many records. For example, it's the start of the great Motown songs like this. So that 6-stroke roll orchestration is like this. So by simply putting the one accent on the tom, you've created a new feel. A couple other ways to move a 6-stroke roll around. Put the accents all on the toms, like this. So as you can see, that's all 6-stroke rolls sticking. And sometimes what you can do is tie in a little triplet feel in between those 6-stroke rolls like this. Now using that concept, let's go ahead and orchestrate that using those stickings. So as you can see, by keeping those rolls nice and low and keep them flowing, you start moving those accents around, and it's a great way to create little fill-ins. 6-stroke rolls are excellent for using short fill-ins. Now, another way of creating some cool fill ideas would be to start mixing up your bass drum with your snare drum and integrating the bass drum within the 16th note passages and then orchestrating your hands around that. For example, we have 16th notes that sound like this. Now let's take that a step further. Same bass drum placement, but let's change the sticking to right, left bass, like this. So now we can mix that up with the other stickings, like this. Okay, so that's just using those primary stickings with the bass drum on the last 16th note. Now, let's try another combination and let's mix the bass in a little bit more. How about putting the bass starting on the 1 and then every 3rd note, like this. Now, what will make this hard is playing quarter notes with your left foot. Now let's orchestrate that around the drums a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so now, not only can we just use the toms, we can also use the hi-hat as a completely different voice. Okay, so now we use those same fill ideas, and I'm going to pop my left hand back and forth between the hi-hat and the snare. Okay, here we go. Just another way of orchestrating 16th notes around the drums. So we have split 16th notes, we have 6-stroke rolls, and I'm going to give you one more example, and that would be flams. Flams work really well, and there's a few ways you can voice them. You can play your standard flam and move it around the drums, or your rock and roll flam, like this. Now that works really well, just basically flamming between the tom and the snare. That's kind of a standard thing to do. Well, one of the next things we can do is break it up just a little bit more and create some interesting feelings with the bass drum. So we're going to create an even fatter flam, and it's almost like a ruff. So sometimes if I'm going to play a flam, I'll stick a bass drum right before the flam so we create a nice thick sound like this. So it's not quite a triplet, it's almost like a 3-note flam. That really fattens the note out quite a bit. Another thing you can do is play some flam drags. If you don't know flam drags, they sound like this. So now, we can also do a one-handed flam drag. And this is a pretty cool lick for you to learn. And that sticking I'll play slowly goes like this. Okay, it's a non-alternating flam drag, okay, leading off of the one hand. For now, we're leading off the left. We'll try it one more time. Now let's lead it off the right hand. Same sticking. So a pretty cool thing you could do with this is, anytime you have a flam, put the grace note or the soft note up on the tom. So we'll play that same sticking and put the grace note up here. Here we go. You can use that because of the nature of the accents to really syncopate it. That becomes a really cool fusion-y kind of feel. Something you may hear Vinnie Colaiuta do or something like this. Flams can be used in numerous places, and again, taste is very important. You want to put them in there to make the beat sound a little fatter. Do not think that you can just put flams anywhere, and because they tend to sound really, really busy, and because now you're playing two notes at the same time, so it sounds pretty busy. So you got to be careful with your placement of the flams, but if you use them musically, I think flams work really well. So we have 6-stroke rolls. We have some split 16th notes. We have some flams. We're going to do one more movement, and that is using a sextuplet pattern with a Rademacher sticking. And that, again, another fill from Hands, Grooves, and Fills. It goes like this. Okay, so basically once you speed that up, we have a nice sextuplet kind of feel, which goes good in a hip-hop style, for example. So that's some applications of how you can use that fill. So There's many types of things you can do between flams, 16ths, sextuplets, 6-stroke rolls. And I think now what we're going to try to do is do a little solo lick. And we'll call this section Pat's Licks. And just to show you how you can use some of these now, not just as little fill-ins, but longer solos. So, I'll see you in the next lesson. Thanks.